Hello and welcome to the presentation of my final project for Comp 3400 Software Engineering. The project is titled GSCX, which is basically the development of a system of the software system for a company called Government Solutions Company. In this report, I will showcase the design of the software system for Government Solutions Company, which is a company that sells computer equipment to federal government agencies. We include flowcharts, data flow diagrams, data dictionaries, entity relationship diagrams, and GUIs, and we also answer important questions regarding the development of the system. So this project will include how the data will relate to each other and also to external entities such as the agencies and the contract offices that order the equipment. With these diagrams, we will have a good basis to develop the company's software in a formal and structured manner, and the design will provide a solid foundation for the company's software, and this will ensure that when implemented, it will be an efficient and accurate system that meets the requirements specified by the company. The first part of the design showcases a flow chart of how the whole system will work. So of course, the first thing that needs to be done is the order being inputted by the government agency. Once it is inputted, we will then create an order number, and then we will also check if that order is valid. If it is not valid, we will write a letter explaining why the order is not valid, and then we will of course send that letter to the requesting agency. If an order is valid, however, we will enter that order into the database, and then we will check if everything that is in the order is in inventory. If something is not in the inventory, then we need to write a message showcasing that it is not in stock. And then we also need to create a report and send that report to the agency, and then we will need to re-enter it into the database once it is fixed. If everything is in order, is in the inventory, however, we will ship that to the customer. We will also send the bill to the contracting officer, and then we'll close the order. Once everything has been done, we will then fill the contract and end the process. Next up is the data flow diagram. So obviously when a customer enters the order, the information about that order, the order details, need to go into the database. The database also needs to make a data store of the order and also of the flag. It needs to flag it as outstanding. And then it also needs to go into the inventory, right? So that we can check if everything in the order is in inventory. And lastly, those order details also need to go to the process where we ship the order, because of course, with those details is how we know what to ship. Once we've shipped the order number needs to go into the contracting office, which is also an external entity, and the contracting office will need that order number in order to fill the contract. Here we have the entity relationship diagram. Our first entity is a customer with the primary key of customer ID. A customer can make many orders, making the relationship one-to-many, and the order also has as a primary key its order ID. It also has the customer ID, of course. It has the order date, and then it has the product that the order has. Um, and an order can have many products, and the product is also just with the product ID. Um, a product will also have the product ID. It will also have a manufacturer ID and a Boolean if the product is in stock or not. And then and then a product can also have one manufacturer, which its primary key is manufacturer ID, and then we also have the manufacturer's name. Here we have the data dictionary. Obviously, one of the most important parts of the whole system is the customer, and the customer will be made of the company name, their ID, and their current order. The company name would just be a text, the company ID will just be a 4-digit number, and the order will compose of the order ID, the order details, and the order flag. The order ID is also just a set of 4 digits, and the order details will just be in text. The flag will represent a Boolean value, right? True or false, whether the order has been correctly sent. Here we can see the GUI of what the final product will look like. You can see that it is a website, and this would just be their home page. I figured that since the company only sends to government agencies, it does not need to be the most robust or have the most features, because our customer base is very small, and I think that they would appreciate just the simplicity of our website. So here we can see, um, it has a login, but then it will also have a join button for the agencies that do not have an account. And then we can see on the top that it has three sections: the about us, the products, and the login, which we will see next up. Here is the login. It's a very simple login, just the agency username and password, with a sign in button. And if they don't have an account, then they can of course create one with a black button underneath it. When developing the system, I would use the iterative development model. The reason being that it is that in a dynamic industry like the federal government, where requirements and budgets are always changing, implementing an iterative model will be useful when we need to change the software to adjust to a government agency's needs. Apart from this, the iterative development model is also just very useful because it allows us to focus on the most important requirements first, and that allows us to ensure that the core parts of the software are well implemented. As with any projects, there will be risks. For me, the number one risk will be unauthorized users creating accounts. So since the only customer base of this company is government agencies, we need to ensure that the users creating those accounts are actual legitimate agencies and not just anyone. So to mitigate this, we really just need to ensure a rigorous and secure account creation process that verifies that it is an actual governmental agency. Of course, any type of project, software bugs will also arise. And just to avoid this, we just need to implement a rigorous testing process to ensure that the software is as stable as possible. With this said, of course, issues will always arrive even after testing has been completed and the software has been deployed, which is why the development team should be ready to handle any issues that may arise as soon as possible. Data breaches will also be a huge risk, uh, especially given the importance of the customers. So we must ensure and protect against data breaches that could leak sensitive information. A fundamental way to mitigate this is by storing the database information using a cryptographic hashing algorithm, so that we can hash the information so that even in the worst case scenario where a data breach does happen, the database is actually encrypted and protected. As previously seen, we will use a web-based technology for this project, with distinct languages for the front end and for the back end. So for the front end, I would of course use HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Those are the most popular options that offer the most support on most browsers. And then also it will be handy to use a JavaScript framework such as React.js or AngularJS that will just make development better and smoother. For the backend, well, of course, we would use SQL for the database, and any type of backend language should work, such as Java. Given that the backend code would be simple, I don't feel that a backend framework would be needed. For the philosophy, I would use an object-oriented one, so that we can represent some manufacturers, products, and customers as objects with their own properties. Additionally, we can use the pillars of object-oriented programming, like abstraction and encapsulation, to organize our system and have a clear and concise organization. As for the minimum software requirements, so since it would be just a web application, the minimum requirements would just be a computer and a web browser that supports modern JavaScript and HTML5, such as Microsoft Edge, Google Chrome, or Firefox. So it would be best to avoid outdated browsers such as Internet Explorer, just because it doesn't have as much support for JavaScript and JavaScript frameworks. For the hardware requirements, the system would not be very intensive and it would really not require any type of advanced computer or server. That being said, given the sensitivity and importance of our inventory and data and our customer data, we should have a lot of storage and frequent backups, just to protect our customers. As for the cost, for the analysis of requirements, we'll probably need around $10,000, just because we need to meet with different government agencies and find out their needs. So this cost will include travel expenses, um, and of course employee salaries for the time that they are meeting with clients. For the software design, it should cost about $30,000, and this mainly just includes expanding the existing ERDs, flowcharts, uh, data flow diagrams, UIs, and of course all the other things that go into the design. Um, so for the coding, since we're using very popular and some open source technologies, the cost of the coding is not that big and it can be done by a small team of developers. So I estimate that the budget will be around $60,000 for the development of the entire system. The testing phase would actually be a very should actually be a very intensive one, since we need to ensure that the security not only of our company but also the security of the government agencies. So I would estimate testing to be around $10,000. This project presents all the required flowcharts, data flow diagrams, entity relationship diagrams, data dictionaries, and GUIs. All the presented diagrams and flowcharts represent the complete design of the system, allowing the coding of this project to commence as soon as possible. Additionally, the GUI represents a modern, sleek website that demonstrates the professionalism and is sure to provide a great user experience. The project presented a great challenge and opportunity that made me realize just how complex a software system can be. While each module explained the concepts in a clear way, using all that information in an actual project was a daunting task that required a lot of time and effort. As I now finish the project, I'm very proud of the outcome and I feel that it showcases my ability to design a complex system. Thank you for your attention and have a great day.